Jesus' ministry is often divided into three titled years: the year of preparation, the year of popularity, and the year of opposition. Now, these are not a perfectly tidy separation, but they can help you guess with a reasonable amount of success when an event occurred. For example, the accounts of Jesus calling his disciples are during that first year. That's preparation. The second year, the year of popularity, contains things like parables and miracles, often with large crowds, although these do happen in the other phases as well. In that second year, the year of popularity, there is some opposition, but it's mostly from the religious leaders rather than from the crowds themselves. Now, in the final year, the year of opposition, that's things like Jesus predicting his own death and other teachings that cause even his followers some uneasiness. That's the year when they try to stone him, and of course the year when ultimately they succeed, at least from their perspective, in killing him. Where Jesus did his ministry is also helpful to the timeline. Since his public ministry is essentially bookended by Passovers with another two in between, we know Jesus was in Jerusalem at those times. But Jerusalem was a journey of several days from where Jesus grew up and actually did most of his ministry. We also know that John was a lot closer to Jerusalem than to Nazareth or Capernaum because he was preaching in the desert of Judea, it says. So Jesus definitely did some early ministry down near Jerusalem associated with that first Passover. But after that, he spent a lot of time in Galilee to the north. Many of the accounts in early Matthew, Mark, and Luke mention places like Capernaum, Nazareth, or just Galilee in general. Perhaps the trickiest part of the timeline is that the Sermon on the Mount from Matthew 5 through 7 probably takes place after much of what Matthew puts before it. The Sermon on the Mount is typically placed in the second year of Jesus' ministry, the year of popularity, which occurs after that second Passover. Location-wise, Jesus is still in Galilee. He does a lot more teaching and a lot more miracles. And this second year is about Matthew 8 through 13 and roughly Luke 6 through 11. But Mark's only made it to chapter 3, since he does not include the Sermon on the Mount and has less detail in general. John is the one who gives us the festival references, by which we determine the whole ministry was about 3 years. But besides very early ministry, John does not describe much of year 1 or year 2. John does specifically mention that the feeding of the 5,000 is around the time of the Passover. This would be the second last Passover. That's big because although most of John's content is unique, here we have a time-marked event that the other three gospel writers do include. So the final year begins with more ministry in Galilee, teaching, and miracles. But this is now the year of opposition, so it includes things like Jesus trying to avoid big crowds. The feeding of the 5,000 can serve as a nice transition into that third and final year. Remember, they wanted to make him king by force. Jesus did not want that. That's opposition. Toward the end of year 3, Matthew and Mark both mention Jesus leaving Galilee for the region of Judea across the Jordan. This is Perea. The lead account here is Luke 12 through 18. It's pretty much 7 chapters of Jesus' teaching, a lot of it being parables. Matthew and Mark seem to cover this information topically. They don't include it all, but what they do contain occurs in scattered non-consecutive chapters. But Perea was not the final destination. Jesus still had to make it to Jerusalem. So now you hear about towns like Jericho and Bethany. This means he's getting close. During this time are the accounts of Zacchaeus and blind Bartimaeus. Finally, the chronology gets a little simpler for Holy Week. Palm Sunday is the day Jesus rode into Jerusalem humbly yet triumphantly on a donkey, fulfilling the prophecy of Zechariah. Mark gives us 2 clear day references so that we know what happened on Monday and Tuesday. Monday is sometimes called Angry Monday because Jesus cleared the temple that had been turned into a marketplace. Note that he also did this in John chapter 2. It's highly likely that these are different accounts, that he did something like this twice. The details are a little bit different, and John 2 is pretty clearly 3 years prior to Matthew 21 and Mark 11. Tuesday has been called Teaching Tuesday because it contains a lot of Jesus' words, including more parables. This appears to be the day Judas agreed to betray Jesus. Wednesday has been called Silent Wednesday because there's no clear evidence that we know anything Jesus did on this day. The time markers seem to go straight from Tuesday to Thursday. Maundy Thursday, of course, is the night Jesus instituted the Lord's Supper. This coincides with Passover number 4, that is the one 3 years after the one associated with the beginning of Jesus' ministry. After the meal, Jesus went out to the Garden of Gethsemane, and there he was arrested. It's also worth noting that this day, Maundy Thursday, takes Matthew, Mark, and Luke 1 chapter, but John here takes 6 chapters. Thursday and Friday blend together a little bit since there's important activity going on all night. Jesus is on trial before the Sanhedrin, and then before Pontius Pilate, and then before Herod, and then back to Pontius Pilate. It ends with his conviction, and he is crucified on Friday. He was put up about 9 a.m. and still alive at 3 p.m., but not much later because his body came down before nightfall, and he was buried. He spent all of Saturday in the grave and was gone on Sunday morning. The end of the Gospels is Ascension, which occurred 40 days after Easter. During that time, Jesus appeared to many people, including, of course, his apostles. The chronology of Jesus' ministry can certainly be a bit complicated, but there are some things we can hang our hats on. It started shortly after and ended at Passover, 3 years apart. These were in Jerusalem. Jesus spent most of his ministry, however, up to the north in Galilee. Eventually, toward the end, he went over to Perea and then made his ultimate trip down to Jerusalem. And don't forget the 3 years, the year of preparation, the year of popularity, and the year of opposition. I'm Pastor Clinton. May the God of wisdom increase your understanding of his word.